So Nidhi, it's really nice to see you here in Amsterdam. And you have been in high demand here at our client event. As you're talking to various people who have operations in India here today, what are the top 3 things you're talking about?
Well, Rodney, so we have come a long way as a country, and there are a few trends which I'm seeing with the Indian tax legislative framework that is happening in India. The first one is, as a country, we are focusing more and more on simplifying the tax regime. We are going low on incentives, exemptions, and we are introducing more competitive tax rates. Like we have a corporate tax rate now of about 25%. It is very competitive. And we are trying to give incentives at very few places, like some production incentives for encouraging manufacturing, and a competitive tax rate of 15% if you set up manufacturing operations before 31st March 2024. But largely the landscape has been that you come here, set up operations, you have a decent corporate tax regime. We don't give too many exemptions, too many deductions. You come comply with the law and you're happy. So that's one of the trends that we are seeing increasingly in our tax space. The second one is with respect to expanded withholding tax compliance framework that we have. If you would have picked up the last year's tax changes which have happened in the law, almost every transaction is now covered under withholding tax ambit. Whether it is, historically it has been, services which are generally subject to withholding, or if you're making rent payments, but now it even travels beyond that. Even procurement of goods domestically is something which is subject to withholding tax, subject to TDS, and there are other new provisions in the law which really puts withholding tax obligations on the bearers. So fairly complex piece of legislation as far as withholding tax is concerned. This is essentially to ensure upfront collection of taxes. Government is very particular about it. And there are interest and penalty exposures if one does not comply with the withholding tax regime. So this has been a very effective tool that the government has in order to ensure collection of taxes, and compliance with withholding tax remains on top of the mind priority for a lot of our clients. And even when I'm meeting here in Amsterdam, that is something which is being talked about quite a lot.
I mean, this withholding tax point, so does this cover also business-to-business transaction?
Yes, business-to-business transaction.
So this must be a heavy compliance lift for a lot of people.
Right, absolutely, Rodney. So if you see, at least in India, 70 to 75% of a tax management team's time is actually going in, understanding these compliances, and designing a process framework so that nothing is missed from a withholding tax compliance perspective. So we have, in fact, been now seeing a trend that without technology, you can't really handle withholding tax compliances. And it's a very big problem for companies which are having volumes of data, and you have to actually analyze whether you have really taken the right call on applicability of withholding tax on a particular transaction, because otherwise the tax can be recovered from you along with interest and penalty. In few cases, you can actually be prosecuted as well. So that's the compliance, burden which the government has casted. So without technology intervention, it is increasingly becoming very difficult. And we are seeing a trend with our clients that there's a lot of technology interplay that is being built now in the tax management system, so that there can be automatic, decision on withholding of taxes, automatic reconciliations, which can happen with respect to, how much was supposed to be deducted, how much has been deducted, and also, making representations before the office or whatever information is required. That is also coming automatically from the system rather than too much of manual intervention. So technology is really playing a very big role there. A lot of people are adopting technology to really effect these withholding tax compliances. So that's one area where tax technology is being talked about quite a lot in India.
Gosh, so that really explains why people were asking you about the new withholding tax regime, because it's such a big thing.
Right.
And then you were also talking about potential changes in the way India thinks about royalties. And I know a large topic of discussion here is intangible property. What's going on there?
Well, there are two aspects to it. One is that We have now a Supreme Court judgment on, royalties, specifically with respect to license payment for use of softwares, wherein the Supreme Court has given a decision that, just use of license is really not royalty, which is taxable under the treaty when you look at the relevant treaties. So that's one side of it. So there's still a lot of litigation on revenue authorities trying to distinguish on a factual basis what really falls under the basket, which is covered by the Supreme Court decision, and what does not fall under that. So that's another part of, that's another part of what is being discussed around royalty in India. The recent change which has come with respect to taxation of royalty as well as fee for technical services is there has been an increase in the withholding tax rate under our domestic tax laws with respect to royalty and fee for technical services. So the new rate now is 20% under the Act, which is higher as compared to what it was earlier, which was 10%. So invariably what it means is that every foreign company now which is having royalty, fee for technical services, if it wants to do away with the 20% withholding tax rate, it has to take recourse to the treaty. And then one has to really examine whether you are fulfilling all the criteria of the treaty, like, whether the PPT test you're getting hit by that, whether the substance, whether beneficial ownership is there or not. And there is a heavy documentation which is required from an Indian tax standpoint in order to be treaty benefit. So that changes for a lot of foreign companies because a lot of their payments now will have to be examined from a treaty eligibility perspective. And I think that will be some discussion point for the next couple of months for a lot of foreign players.
And I can imagine that's going to inevitably, as with everything, become a source of controversy and dispute.
Right.
So a good message there, which is if you haven't done the treaty analysis, given the doubling of the withholding rate, now's the time to be thinking about it.
Absolutely right.
Well, I can tell why you were very popular today, Nidhi. So thank you very much for listening. Fascinating.
Thanks a lot, Rodney. Thank you for your time.